Pastor Dennis.
Good morning.
Running a little late. Let me look. Yeah, 7 minutes late, but we here in the beautiful morning in Pacific Northwest. And last night I went to this banquet, and they had one of the speakers. What I don't remember his name, and he was saying what I say every morning, every Sunday morning. He said when he tell people Washington, people said D.C. and he said no, it's not Washington D.C. It's the beautiful Pacific Northwest Washington, the one where you guys think it rains a lot. He said people said where it rains a lot. He said no, it doesn't rain as much as people think it rains. And the joke of the night from him was that it's the Washington that have a speaker, not the that was funny. It's the Washington that has a speaker. So that was kind of cool when he said that. So yes, we are in the Washington that has a speaker. This is Washington State. We from here from Tacoma, Washington, at VT Radio Universal, Siembra. Host. My name is Yazmin Ford, and my co-host is Pastor Dennis. And today we have a lot to talk about, especially what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on with the conflict of Israel and the Palestines. And I wanted to start the show because I noticed that a lot of people, some people don't want to dive into it because it's complex, it's complicated. There is people that don't want to take sides too, and the people that take sides. There is a backlash today going on around the world with the Europe Union, where they are trying to keep people from speaking up and using their first right, that is to have free speech and say what do you think. Even if I don't agree with you, it should be able to do that. So here in the United States, there is some backlash for the kids, the university kids that are protesting against the conflict and trying to take sides with the Israelites and the Palestinians. So we have a right. This is a human right to have a right to really have free speech, even though if we don't agree with what you say. So we have to be very mindful of that too, that we don't have to agree, but I can't stop you from saying what you believe and think. And I wanted to start this show with my personal, the way I look at it. I for a lot of people that listen to my show, they know I'm Panamanian, and I grew up in a little city in Panama, Rio Abajo, for the people that listen in that Panamanian. It is a little ghetto area of Afro descent Panamanians. And I remember even today, I'm living in survival. When I was young, living in survival mode, and just see my mom and even my dad worry about money and where is the next meal is going to come on all of the different things. And even in my adult life, even though I have a really good life here, privileged life, that we can decide what to eat. We have big houses with big spaces that we don't need. We have 3 and 4 cars that we just can drive one at a time, so, and I don't have 3 or 4 cars, but I'm just saying, and I still can feel in my life, adult life, that I still have signs of living in survival mode because of the trauma that, not having and always worrying about food and money. And I was thinking yesterday and today about, and I know I'm talking a lot, but about the way people live in that region. kids that are born in that region, their whole life is trauma. They're living in a whole being of being traumatic. When you have to move, when you have in a constantly fight just to be and just to have a place to be. I just can't imagine living in that type of life, having that to live in that type of way. Is you living, you have this trauma that is embedded for kids and little kids that born with this. And I just can't believe that this is the life that God wants people to live and want people to live. I was telling my nephew when I was driving here, I was telling him that the God that I believe, because he's using the Bible and the Old Testament, I can't believe that he wants people to live that way. I just can't, not in my head. I'm a human being with limitations, and I don't want people to live that way. So I just can't believe the justification. And we have systems that are created to keep people divided, because by keeping people divided, they profit. By holding on to power, they profit. You know, we have systems that want to always keep people in this constant division because they will profit. So I wanted to open the show with my personal feeling and view of how I feel about this. Because the Jew community and the Palestinians are not that different. A lot of them are related. A lot of them are family. And I was telling my nephew too, I was saying, I don't think God is a God of materialism. I think God created us, and I feel like we are this experiment from God saying, hey, I'm going to create human being. I'm going to give them free will. I'm going to make them stewards and administrator of the earth. And we are going to see how they're going to live. They're going to think different. They're going to look different, and see how they manage to live together and resolve conflict. And we have failed. We have failed. We've been failing. And I said, I don't think God is a God of materialism. I don't think God told the Jewish people, this is your land and you have to kill me, or the Palestinian. I don't think he is that. He's trying to teach us to learn to live and resolve conflict. Conflict is healthy. To a certain point, it is. But living that way, it to me hurts me. I don't live there, and it hurts me to see that these people are living not today. This is not 20 years. This is not 20 years of fighting. And we have forces that want to keep this like this because they profit. So I'm finished with my rant. But I get very, very emotional because I just can't see myself living like that. So Pastor Dennis, give us your view about, and I have a lot of notes here because this is a lot and this is complex. So let me, it took up 20 minutes, I don't know, but go ahead.
Well, it hurts to see the conflict that's going over there. Unfortunately, I don't think there is any quick solution. You've got terrorists in control both on the Jewish side and the Palestinian side. They are authoritarians on both sides. They, it's all about uh, their own personal agendas, and they don't care about the little guy who is victimized by what they're doing. I mean, both regions have a track record of indiscriminately bulldozing down housing tracts, apartments, all of that, and displacing large amounts of people. You know, this is no different than that. You know, this is, you know, whose agenda is going to win, mine or theirs. You know, every single time these attacks happen, they are always provoked by the other side before it happens. I mean, this time they were invading the sacred space of the Muslim mosque, and it seemed like they did that the last time there was an outburst. The same story, you know.
Research. I was doing my research and listening the whole weekend about it, and I feel that the Jewish community, the Israelites, have went through a lot. They've been through a lot too. I feel that they have, for a while or a long time, have no place to call their own.
Yeah.
And but then we have these other forces that they decided to jump into the equation and say, well, we are going to design these territories to you and to the Palestinians. And this is where it started. I think as long as this is what I got listening and reading. But at one point I feel that the Jewish community today, they feel that this, and I was talking to my nephew driving back. He said, and I want to touch more of the human part of it. That's why I started the way I started. Mm-hmm. But we have a religious component about it too.
Yes.
We have a religious component about it. And again, I told him, I said, I can't believe that God decided to give this land to this group of people and say, by all means, it is you, and you have to take it by force. Yeah. I just can't believe that.
Well, the problem is the religious component is a cover-up for the racism that triggered this solution. I mean, after World War II, all of those people that had been persecuted and put in concentration camps, the rest of the world didn't really want to welcome them to their shores and provide them asylum. So they created Israel, give them a homeland. Now, giving Israel a homeland is a magnanimous gesture, because they've lived for almost 2,000 years without a homeland. They've been gypsies mm-hmm. that never wanted to be gypsies, you know, and they're not the only ones that have been stuck in that position, but the justification for it happening, of course, happened with the introduction in the middle of the 19th century mm-hmm. of sensationalism that said that they interpreted Revelation to say that God intended to give Israel back their nation and reestablish them as a people as part of the end time scheme, mm-hmm. which is what which is still a rather novel interpretation of Revelation, but it has caught on like a wildfire, maybe partly because of Israel being established as a nation. It was our way of justifying what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it's a ridiculous a connection to religion, because until that happened, that was not part of religious thinking.
And I was, like I said, I was talking to my nephew about this. Really, he's so smart, but we was talking about it and having a debate about it. And I was telling him, I said, God, I mean, I just can't believe that the religious community think, well, I can't believe that God would put this in the Bible. I said, I don't believe everything that is in the Bible. I cannot. I cannot believe everything that is in the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah. Oh, go ahead, Pastor.
I have told people that, we in the conservative Christian world, we like to use a term of inerrancy. And I just last week described, I believe in a version of inerrancy, but my version of inerrancy is that the Bible accurately portrays the opinions and the thinking of the people of that time. It doesn't mean that what they say is correct. It doesn't mean that what they believed was valid.
Mm-hmm.
It means that's how they felt, and it's a history of it's a document of salvation history, giving us a glimpse into the past and how people looked at all this stuff. And I think if the Bible should be seen the same way. It's not a prescriptive book. It's not a book that was designed by God to teach everything in a perfect world. If it were, it wouldn't have so many problems. It wouldn't have so many errors in it.
And what you said it so perfectly, because I remember when I started reading the Bible, I thought everything that was in the Bible was good. And as I start processing the word of the word, and I don't want to say the word of God, because I don't think all of it is the word of God. I start processing, and I think it's basically telling the relationship of God with humankind, and the relation and the nature of humans. That is what I see when I read the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Is complex. It tells you the nature of human beings. It tells you all. It shows flaws and that we want to call God. I call it God. You call it God.
Yeah.
The relationship that we have and He has with us. That's what I see. That is complex, but it's not perfect, because we are not. And I think when He created us, He created us with that intent to make sure that we're not perfect. Being not perfect is exactly makes you perfect. But the experiment that I was saying when I was thinking yesterday, mm-hmm. He said, okay, I'm going to create this. I'm going to create human being, and I'm going to give them free will to be. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make them stewards and administrator of this that we call the world. And then we're going to see how this works. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make everybody different, everybody unique. Even our fingerprints and our teeth make us so unique. I mean, me and you, I always say, you're a white male, and I'm an Afro-Latina woman.
Yeah.
And we don't agree in everything, but the beauty of this connection is that we don't agree.
Yeah.
That we don't agree, and that we bring our experience together to try to impact a little bit of our community. That is the beauty of this. And I don't think we get it. And I wanted you to talk about systems. I don't think we get it. And there is systems, political, governmental systems that are created for us not to get it.
Uh-huh. Well, as life, in reality, whenever someone has an agenda, they always have a story behind it to legitimize why they see it the way they do. And like Revelation, I know that a lot of people believe that this is supposed to happen because of Revelation. They're trying to honoring of Revelation. But like I said, this is a novel interpretation of Revelation that allows us to see things through this way. Revelation is an apocalyptic text. That means it is using emotional language to elicit emotional responses, not logical responses, emotional responses. It's kind of a poetic type of thing, but it uses extreme language. But Revelation, there's a lot of symbolism in Revelation. They use sevens. There's the seven churches. There's the seven torches or lamps. There's the seven seals, the seven trumpets, the seven bowls. Seven is a term for perfection. So the idea of seven bowls being perfection, a weird thing. Okay.
And symbolism, I guess, as you think about it.
Yeah. But I think the idea is that all of this is leading to perfection. There's the use of 10 a lot in Revelations, and 10 represents change and growth and new beginnings. There's a use of 3 a lot, which is a reference to God or ultimate good, kind of a thing. There's use of 12, which is 12 is a reference to God's people. So there's 144,000. 1,000 is kind of the reign of God, and 12 tribes and 12 apostles. All of that with the 1,000 makes 144,000. So there's a lot of symbolism there, but the whole of Revelation fits in kind of. There's like 3 storylines that are introduced in Revelations. First one is Jesus. That Jesus had to lay his life down. He had to die on the cross, but he beat death. And then the second storyline is, of course, the 7 churches. And we are, of course, being represented in the 7 churches, or part of God's people. We are to follow Jesus and lay our lives down and beat death as well. And then the majority of Revelation focuses on how God ultimately wins, and that what Christ did at the cross is the center of history. And that's the point of Revelation. But all the symbolism points to confronting the injustice that human drive instills in us. We have a tendency of trusting the arm of power, war, and all of that stuff. And in these stories of Revelations, talking about how that those trusting the arm of war and brinkmanship and all of that produces trauma in our lives. And all the stories of Revelation, when you get finished reading this stuff, you feel traumatized. And that's a sense of that's what happens when we go after our own initiative and our own solutions, that we're traumatized. But ultimately, God is allowing, throughout all of those stories in there, there is God's characters. There is God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and on the evil side, they have their counterparts as well. They have the beast, they have the Antichrist, they have the great whore, which the great whore is the equivalent to the church.
The church.
The church is the bride. On the other side. So there is a mirror image used throughout Revelation to contrast them to each other. And throughout Revelation, all of these traumas to the people of God, well, these are tests, trials and tests. But to people who are seeking control and power and manipulating people, this is experienced as wrath, as their agenda being flipped on them. You know what I'm saying? And so there's that. All of that stuff is going on in there, but there is a story pattern. There's repeated references to 7, and in those 7 there's like 4. There's 4 evangelists and 4 different animals. There's 4 plagues, and there's 4 horsemen, and there, all this. The 4 winds, and all of this, the 4 gives us a sense of what the ultimate meaning of these 4 horsemen are, and what these 4 winds are, and these 4 whatever are. But in each one of these stories, evil is never given full reign. Every time they say that evil is loosed, they're loosed on 1/3 of the nation. They're loosed on 2/3 of the nation. They're loosed on a segment, but this amount is held back from them. So even when evil seems to win, God is still holding them at bay and saying you can only do it so much. And in each one of these, there's the 7th seal and the 7th trumpet and the 7th bowl. You go through these stories and they never tell you what the 7th thing is until they said, okay, in the end, God's had enough. And he settles a score, and that's when they talk about the 7. So it's a complicated text, and it is shocking. I mean, when you read it.
Well, and one of the things that I was thinking, that I think I talked to you about, is I was listening to NPR coming here, and we have students from university calling different law people and people that are scholars when it comes to free speech, trying to figure out what. And one of the things that's going on right now here and abroad is that the people that are talking against the Israelites, the Jewish community, are being getting punished. They have people here not in Washington State, but here in the United States, students that have been protesting against the Israelites and trying to advocate or talk for the Palestinians that are they're saying their names are getting plastered and the internet. They are getting even the universities are taking steps to make sure that people don't use the free speech rights. And I think, and I listened to the President Biden. I have not listened to him in the second speech, but I know in the first speech, because this is the word, this is the word that they use, that Israel has every right to defend itself. And he talked about the people that are got hostage. I think it's 150 people. And he talked about all the people that are died in Israel. And he never mentioned, and I need to go back and listen, maybe I need to, the Palestinians. He never said anything about them.
Yeah.
And now I see that now it's kind of changing, because Lloyd Austin, that is the military big guy, the defense guy, he said something about making sure that Israel follow the war rules, because there's rules to be in a war too, that I find that comical to me in a way, right? And the UN and stuff is trying to make sure, because Israel has one of the most powerful armies in the world. This little piece of land, these people have the most power, one of the most powerful, army in the world. And the United States decided, and always decided, I don't know based on what, to take side. For me, it hurts me, because I feel that you can't put value on people's life. And this is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
You can't put value based on where you come from, the region that you come from. You can't put value on people based on gender. We can't put value on people based on the color of your skin. And this, again, it takes away the humanity part of it, where you see we have politicians, we have people that are leading, that if we go back to the Bible and we see Saul, he had to go out when everybody, all the kings that declares war, they had to go out in the front and fight. Mm-hmm. I don't think we would be, if it's these politicians would say, okay, let's go, is I declare war in a country, I have to load up, put on my army clothes, and go fight that fight. It would be a different story.
Mm-hmm.
it would be definitely a different story. But for me, I think people get into politics and government, and I want to think they get into it with the right mindset to serve, but then they start living in a bubble where they can't see outside of that.
Yeah. Well, the problem in politics is that the vast number of voters are uninformed, and politicians have to live in the world of what appears to be true, not what's really true. So they have to deal in perceptions. So in this case, the most voters are unaware of how much the Palestinians have been assaulted by the Israelis.
Yes.
And even
it's crazy.
less are aware of how much the Palestinian Authority themselves have assaulted the Palestinian people. All they see is Hamas has attacked Israel. And if you take everything else out of the picture, Hamas needs to be held accountable. And that's the world that the politicians have to live in. I was proud of Biden.
They don't have to. They don't have to live in that.
They don't, but the reality is they're held accountable to the perception of the voters.
What voters?
They should educate.
What voters? Because we have the Christian community that, oh my God, you can't say anything about the Jewish community and Israel because those are the chosen people of God.
Right.
That I don't believe that neither. You know, I don't think God picks people. I'm a human being and I have one son.
Yeah.
But I had people said, no, we don't have, my mom said, no, I love all my kids. No, it's not true. It's just not true.
Yeah.
You know, but this is part of the nature of human being. And we equate God nature. We say and said, okay, God is like us. No, we are like God. So when we think of God, God has to pick somebody's special to do this. I don't think Israel is the chosen people. I think God, when he make people, he see all human beings as, you know, as a whole, his creation. But I you know, and this notion that these are the chosen people of God, and God forbid I say anything against them, because they're going to experience the wrath of God.
Well, as a Christian, I can accept chosen in the past, not chosen in the future. Because Christianity gets our heritage, our religious heritage, through the Jewish religion. But, you know, the Jewish religion, they got their heritage from the Mesopotamians, and there was a lot of crossbreeding with the Hindus as well. So, you know, just because we get our religious tradition from Judaism doesn't mean we are not related to all those other religions as well, and that we shouldn't acknowledge and respect those other people as well. I understand honoring the Jews because that's the lineage in which we received Christianity. I understand that, but the idea that they are forever a special people that can get away with murder,
And that's the point.
just like Trump said.
That's the point. When they cannot
That's
do,
ridiculous.
they cannot do wrong. Even when they're doing wrong, and we cannot condemn them because
Yeah.
this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. You cannot, like, no. They are been wrong, and they've been bullying these people so bad. It's crazy.
It's like having a child molester grandfather. Okay, the Bible says
It's
to
not
honor
funny,
your
but it
father
is.
and mother, and so now you've got the conflict of honoring your father and mother and your grandparents, and you've got the evil that he perpetrated. You can't throw out the evil he perpetrated just because he is your ancestor.
No.
You still have to deal with it.
Yes, you definitely. And one of the things is, even I think like the point that is, I'm mad at you and I don't want to help you. That's fine, and we have conflict and I'm done with you. That's fine. But then I go around and tell everybody, Christian wants to help Pastor Dennis, and I say, Christian, is you help Pastor Dennis? I'm done with you. I'm not gonna help you, and I'm gonna block every help that that you can get from everybody else or else. This is bullying, and this is not cool.
You're
because
exactly right.
because if the Israelites don't want to help the Palestinians, fine, but they block other people and countries and entities to help the Palestine. That to me is crazy, and how it is that people think this is okay and this is part of God's plans. No, I just can't go with that. I can't.
Right.
But I wanted to read a little bit. What is Israel before 1948? And what was the Balfour Declaration? And this is, Britain took control of the area known as Palestine after the rule of the part of the Middle East. The Ottoman Empire was defeated in World War I. The land was inhabited by a Jewish minority and Arab minority, as well as other smaller ethnic groups. Tensions between the two peoples grew when the international community gave the UK the task of establishing a national home in Palestine for the Jewish people. This stemmed from the Balfour Declaration of 1917, a pledge made by then Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Britain's Jewish community. The declaration was enshrined in the British mandate over Palestine and endorsed by the newly created League of Nations, forerunner of the United Nations in 1922. The Jewish Palestine was their ancestral home, but the Palestine Arabs also claimed the land and opposed the move. What do you think about that?
Well, they're cousins, so
Yes, yes, they're related.
of course they both shared the same territory. And when Israel was pushed out, somebody was bound to take over, so they did. But the funny thing about it is, before this Belfast and the establishment of Israel, there really wasn't much conflict between them. There was most of the conflict was between Christians and Jews before all that. We hated the Jews, whereas the Muslims lived side by side with Jews before that.
I mean, it said it's right here.
And the same is true with the Hindus. Did you realize that the Hindus supported Israel becoming a nation?
No, I didn't know that.
Because they have an ancient connection that has been around for forever, and there have been Jewish people in India since Israel was disassembled, basically.
And I let me continue reading. Between the 1920s and the 1940s, the number of Jews arriving there grew, with the many fleeing from persecution in Europe, especially the Nazi Holocaust in the World War II. Violence between Jewish and Arabs and against British rule also increased. In 1947, the UN voted for Palestine to be split into separated Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem becoming an international city. The plan was accepted by the Jewish leaders but rejected by the Arab side and never implemented.
I'm not surprised.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
None of us like to have a foreign power come into our neighborhood and dictating how we're supposed to do stuff. If France came in and divided up Washington State, not changing the number of the people who live here, but coming in and saying, okay, we're going to divide Washington between the Indians and the whites. We wouldn't like it either.
no, we wouldn't. And it says, how and why was Israel created? In 1948, unable to solve the problem, Britain withdrew and Jewish leaders declared the creation of the State of Israel. It was intended to serve as a safe haven for the Jews fleeing persecution, as well as a national homeland for the Jews. Hundreds, it says right here, fighting between Jewish and Arabs militias has been intensified for months, and the day after Israel declares statehood, 5 Arab countries attack. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled or were forced out of their homes in what they call the Nakba, or the catastrophe. By the time the fighting ended in a ceasefire the following year, Israel controlled most of the territory. Wow.
And those were some fierce fighting.
It says Jordan occupied land which became known as the West Bank, and Egypt occupied Gaza. Jerusalem was divided between Israeli forces in the west and Jordanian forces in the east. Because there was never a peace agreement, there were more wars and fighting in the following decades.
Yeah. Well, we see today the conflict between the conflict between Iran and Iraq. And we if you read the history of Iran, you've got the conflict between the Kurds and the Shiites, as well as those are both Muslim communities, but they can't they're constantly fighting too, and nobody will allow the Kurds to have their own homeland.
And I see the reason why the Palestinians feel the way they feel. I mean, I was here first. And now you overtake and control, and not just control, bully me out of my land. In a war in 1967, Israel occupied East Jerusalem and the West Bank, as well as most of the Syrian Golan Heights, Gaza, and the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula. Most Palestinian refugees and their descendants live in Gaza and the West Bank, as well as in neighborhood in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Neither they nor their descendants have been allowed by Israel to return to their homes. Israel says this will overwhelm the country and threaten his existence as a Jewish state. Wow.
It's tribalism on steroids.
Yeah. Wow. Now, I can see, and here it says, Israel still occupies the West Bank and claims the whole of Jerusalem as its capital, while the Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital of the hope for future Palestine states. The U.S. is one of the only a handful of countries that recognize the city as Israel capital. Yeah, well, Trump did that when he was president.
Jerusalem, yeah.
In the past 50 years, Israel has built settlements in the West Bank and east of Jerusalem, where more than 700,000 Jews now live. Settlements are held to be illegal under international law. That is the position of the UN Security Council and the UK government, among others, although Israel reject this. And the reason they can do that because they have all these different countries supporting them.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest problem between Israel and the Muslim neighbors is that it's not so much the Jewish people as much as it is the Caucasian, the Europeans, the Americans that are living vicariously through the Jewish people. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it's and here's Gaza is a narrow strip land sandwich between Israel and the Mediterranean Sea, but with a short southern border with Egypt. Just 41 kilometers or 25 miles long and 10 kilometers wide. It has more than 2 million inhabitants and is one of the most densely populated places on Earth. In the wake of 1948 and 1949 war, Gaza was occupied by Egypt for 19 years. So this is an area that's been very contentious when it comes to, and I see it is like a sandwich in between. Palestinians, 14.3 million total population. West Bank, 3 million. Gaza Strip, 2 million. Jordan, 2 million. Israel, 2 million. And Syria, 0.5 million. So we're looking at an area that is so contentious, and I don't know, and is right here. Is like a strip, in the middle. That all these different countries is almost like they are in the middle, and we have, I think Lebanon is up here, and I think Egypt is down here. I'm not sure. Let me look at my map right now. But Yes, yes. Egypt is down here, and Lebanon is up here. So so I'm thinking, what is also the 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 value of this little piece of strip that it seems to be that all these different countries are really, fighting for this little piece of land right here, because it's tiny too.
I think it's less about the piece of land and more about conquest. I see Israel in the same light with the West Bank as I see Russia with Crimea,
Mm-hmm.
or China with Taiwan. This is about them being able to grow and assume more people into their territory. It's an aggressive move. It was an aggressive move on Israel's part. And why we don't see their claim on the West Bank the same way as we see Russia's claim over the Slavic republics, that doesn't make sense.
Well, it makes sense, and in the way, for me it makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about Israel when it comes to weapons. And the relationship between Israel and the United States when it comes to weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Israel has one of the best intelligence
Arms in the world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not because they have done it by themselves. They're pretty good at it, but they have the help of the United States. And and even today, I hear President Biden said, "We're gonna send all the help. They don't need no help. We're gonna send all the help." I wanted to read something here about the United States, how much they have helped the Jewish community. They have given the Jewish community $260 billion in aid. 260 billion, not million, $billion. This little piece of land that, so, they have that support that makes them powerful too.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking here, what is Hamas? Want to know about his origin and leaders, because I keep hearing about Hamas, and I said, who are these people?
Mm-hmm.
And it says right here, my glasses, this is pretty small. Hamas is an Islamic militant movement, and one of the Palestinian territories, two major politics party in government, more than 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. But the group is best known for its armed resistance to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
In October of 2023, Hamas launched a massive surprise attack in the southern Israel, killing hundreds of civilians and soldiers and taking dozens more of hostages. Israel has declared war on the group in response and indicated his military is planning for a long campaign to defeat it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all 1.8 million people this display.
Mm-hmm.
1.8 million people display. 1,600 people in the Palestinian side dead, and 1,300. I said 16 million? No, I said 1,600. And 1,300 from the Jewish community. And I don't think nobody wins.
Yeah.
I don't think, these 700,000 people that live in that area that are Jewish really happy about what's going on.
Yeah. What's worse about this is that in connection with this whole thing, the routes out of the Gaza Strip, two of them were destroyed. The one going into Jordan was destroyed, so they can't go that way. And then I forget where the other one was.
Egypt closed it.
Egypt? Okay, was destroyed as well.
No,
So-
Egypt is not destroyed. They just closed that. So the Palestinians are stuck. The Egyptians closed that, so they cannot go out through that route.
Okay. Okay.
So
Well-
it is really
It's like they're all conspiring to destroy the Gaza Strip and the people who live there, I guess.
Israel has told everyone in the north of the Gaza Strip, about 1 million people, to relocate to the south of the territory within 24 hours, and a deadline that has now passed. It wants
Right.
them to be south of the water course known as the Wadi Gaza, but that was destroyed. The UN said this is not possible and asked the Israel to withdraw the order and warning of devastating humanitarian consequence.
Yeah, and I hope they listen to him.
I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen again, because we have all these different countries that are supporting and telling, going out and saying, well, Israel has every right to defend itself.
Defending is one thing, but
That is the word that they keep saying,
the problem is defending turns into aggression, going beyond their borders. That's the problem. Defending is not the problem.
Because there's no way that Hamas is gonna win that war. I don't think they have the amount of arm and intelligence that the Israelites have. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
No, I agree with you.
So I don't. Is almost we talking about, and let me read this. It says right here, Israel's stated goal is to destroy Hamas. It has massed tens of thousands of soldiers in its border with Gaza, along with tanks and artillery. Don't say artillery. How do you say that in English? Anyway, it has activated some 300,000 reservists alongside his standing force of 160,000. The Israelite military has prepared for an offensive by dropping 6,000 bombs on Gaza, targeting Hamas commanders and their control centers. One of his main targets is Hamas' vast Liberian or underground tunnels with linked together is underground command post. You can't do that and not have innocent people casualties.
Yeah.
And I don't think that cannot be possible. I don't know.
Well, the advantages that the West Bank has is they live in a constant state of war, so they have created bomb shelters.
Yes.
So they're able to protect people by, them going down to the bomb shelters. But still, Israel, both sides are just they're not going after military targets. They're just bombing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if they're women and children or civilians. in the way. They just, whoever gets it,
But
gets it.
but
No
I
apology.
don't. What is a military target? Because if the truth is, this is a very small area, very dense with people.
Yes, it is.
And it's not like, let's separate this piece of land. This side here is only for war, and that's it. And we're not going to touch this part. And the rest of this area is just where the people live. That's not how war. And one of the things that I said, if the politicians, is the government, is these systems will have to go out and fight, they probably would think more. Let's talk about negotiations. Let's talk about a sitting down, and I don't know, because this has been happening, like I read, since the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, I reading this and listening, I can see Israeli people never have anything. But I don't understand when the Bible, and people pick and choose what they want. I'm going to do that now. But people pick and choose what they want. The Bible said that God told the Israelites. He warned them. He told them, remember, you've been slave. So don't treat people a certain way. He warned them. He did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've been in a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you don't sit back and say, okay, let's figure out this. Because I know they have not have land, and they've been displaced and figuring out where.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I don't understand the bulliness and the saying, okay, this is our land and this is, I get it when they've been through a lot too. They've been through a lot.
Yeah.
So having, this little piece of land where they said, well, we can, even Lloyd Austin saying, well, remember the war. I said, that is not possible. It's impossible not to have these casualties of innocent people that just wants to live, and I want to be in peace and provide for their families. How is that possible? Mm-hmm. That it can't be.
Yeah. Well, there is peace in certain parts of the world, and there's a reason why it works in those parts of the world. But there's continuous warfare in other parts. It requires a different vision of the future. It requires seeing things from a different perspective. When you think might makes right, there is no solution. If you see the brotherhood of man, then you're willing to give in and find a solution. But if might makes right is your entire worldview, there is no hope. Evil will win with that mindset.
And innocent people get.
Oh yeah.
Innocent people get. I was thinking about Cuba. I've been thinking about Cuba a lot because I think Fidel Castro, and I wanted to talk a little bit. We have minutes here, but I wanted to talk about the different systems of government. We have capitalism, we have communism, and we have socialism and all the isms. And when you think about them, like with Cuba, I was thinking, Fidel Castro saw that the 80% of the Cubans that in the days of the Batista was dying in the sugar canes fields and stuff, and there was apartheid running in Cuba. The minority had power and money, and he took the vast majority of the poor people, and he convinced them, I gonna create a system where everything is gonna be equal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is gonna share equal.
Except for he never delivered.
Yes, yes, because people get into this bubble.
Yeah.
Once they
Same
get
thing
into
happened
power.
in
Mhm.
Russia and in China.
Mm-hmm.
They did the same thing, and neither one delivered.
Yeah, and we have
They-
these systems, and the people that get caught in it is the poor people,
Yes. Yeah.
because the rich people can see the writing, they can see 5, 10 years ahead,
Right.
and they take their money, and they take their stuff, all their assets, and they start moving things out. And the people, the poor people, is the one that get caught as casualties of these different types of governing. It's is
These most of the ones you mentioned are not types of government. They're economic systems.
okay. Hmm.
Types of government would be like a democracy
Okay.
or totalitarianism, or
Republic.
that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But most of those, capitalism and communism, those are economic systems.
It's so he took advantage of that. He created us, and he convinced them, and they believe him. They supported him.
Mm-hmm.
So is for me is I think there has to be a redoing of all these different systems. Even here in the United States, this is another. There's gonna be another program about this, but I'm worried about the United States and where we headed to, and we have to go back and amend and look at the Constitution, because it is not working. I don't think it's working, but that's my opinion. But Pastor Dennis, we are gonna close the show. I wanted you to maybe finish the show talking about the human part, the humanitarian part of this that's going on. It's been going on forever too. I mean, in the early 1920s, even before the Holocaust and all of this. So maybe you can close with the human part of this, and the religious part of it too. That to me doesn't make sense too.
Well, reality is there's always going to be suffering, because there's always ego. As long as ego is around, people will suffer. And the problem with ego is that it puts other people at risk for my agenda. And scapegoating is a central part of that. Sacrificing other people's lives so that mine can be better. We have to decide whether we want to be an individual society that cares only about ourselves, or a community society that cares about the community. Mm-hmm. And even with the community, there has to be an element. We have to be able to marry individualism and community in a way that serves everybody. Because you can have community mindset that destroys the individual, and you can have individualism that destroys the community. So that we have to find a way that does both. And I think it's a constant. I think it's going to be a constant give and take. I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect. I don't believe in utopianism. I don't believe that we can create a perfect world.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't never intended to be that way. But yeah, we're gonna close. Pastor Dennis, thank you, and I see you maybe next month. No, not maybe next month. And so thank you, Pastor Dennis, and for everyone that is listening. You know, I don't know. I just want to say pray. I don't know this conflict and the people, you know, that are in the crossfires of what's going on with decisions that are made. So, yeah, my heart is a little bit heavy about it, but yes. So for everyone, thank you for listening. Siembra, and I see you guys next week here in VT Radio Universal. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a beautiful day. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Yazmin.
Have a good day, Pastor Luis.
God bless.
Bye-bye.